So, and it's been unfortunately dealing with the family law and court system in the great United States of America. And this is the last few months, I guess 3 or 4 months, have been the most insane, months of my life. But what's crazy about this is that everything leading up to this point was basically preparing me for what was coming, as far as from a legal perspective, because background in reading sec filings and things like that, helped tremendously in this effort. I can't go into specific details as of yet, but I am at a point where I can kind of try to help anyone else out there that may be in a similar situation, without going into too much detail. But I'm essentially going to show you what I've done, the process I've taken, and how to represent yourself in court. Because in my situation, I was not intending on this being the case. I actually did retain counsel, and it was horrendous. And then the reason why I would recommend doing this, based on my own experience that I just went through and I'm still currently going through, is the fact that it's family law. If it was a criminal matter, it would be different. But we're talking about your kids here, your house, everything that you work for, everything that you love and that is dear to you is involved in family court. It can get very, very heated and contested. That being said, you know, my gut was telling me the whole time that, how could this person that I'm hiring know more about what's best for my children than me, or make the right decisions for my kids than me? And that's, my gut was essentially right. And I don't know if maybe it was just bad luck of the draw. I know there are some great attorneys out there that do care about the family and children, but I think it's fair to say that the majority of them likely do not. But yeah, so this is going to help those of you that are in a tough spot and maybe need some guidance on what to do, and don't have the cash to get a lawyer. They are expensive as hell. But again, what I've learned throughout this is that it doesn't take a genius to be a lawyer, not at all. It's a lot of it is just procedure, and a lot of it's just following direction. So I'm going to walk you through this. I'm trying not to take too long, but I'll show you the way that I went about it, and it has helped me tremendously. So the first thing you're going to want to do is separate your emotions from the facts of your case. I don't know what your specific situation may be, but obviously there's going to be emotion tied to it because, again, it's your family, your kids, everything that you have, your own, your property, your business, maybe even. It all varies, and every case is unique, which is why these steps are critical if you want to truly represent yourself and do it the correct way, where you don't, make a fool of yourself in the courtroom. So number one is separate your emotions from the facts of your case, because emotions will destroy your case. You have to separate those two things, and that is very, very difficult to do in a family law case, especially. But this is why attorneys don't represent themselves, because of this number one step here. You have to do this, and a lot of the times it's not. Some people can't do it, but unfortunately, it is something that you're going to have to do if you want to be successful in representing yourself. Because I see a lot of videos out there, and I was one of those people that in the beginning of all this, I did, turn. It was kind of like what happened in the stock market. I turned to other people. I was like, all right, what am I going to do? I got to learn something of how to represent myself in court. So I turned to where everybody else does, YouTube and all that shit. But what I learned very quickly is that it's all just kind of mundane shit that you would expect to hear. No one was really going into great detail about anything or specific ways that they actually were able to represent themselves and be successful, or how they went about it. Just very mundane things like learn the rules and do this in court, and it varied. But this is going to be a little bit different take on it. So that is number one. Number two, and again, this is critical, but there's more. It's more than just learning the rules. It's learning the right rules that apply to your case. There's a lot of different shit out there to learn. I'm in Texas, for example, and I'm going to show you here in a minute what that entails as far as what you would need to learn for the code and the law and things like that. Because this is the authority that you're going to be going off of if you're ever wronged or in a situation. Like if you're in a spot where you may have a divorce suit coming up soon, this is something I would highly recommend doing in preparation before that comes to your door. Because if it happens unexpectedly, you want to have enough time to learn this stuff if you're planning on representing yourself, because it's going to pay off tremendously in the long run, especially if your case starts and it's just completely, haste, like decisions are made with unnecessary haste and things like that, which is what happened to me. Um, you don't want to be in that situation. So you want to be prepared, not have to rely on somebody that you don't even know, who doesn't know your family in the situation, to hopefully get you what you're looking for in your case. So number two, you need to learn the rules, and not just the rules, but specific rules. So you're going to want to learn each state in Texas, or I'm sorry, each state in the United States should have some form of procedure rules. For example, in Texas, it's the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. You're going to want to learn the rules of evidence for your state, and you're going to want to learn the local court rules. This is important because this is one area that a lot of people forget about. But local courts do oftentimes have their own set of rules that you're going to want to look at and apply those to your case as needed. Now, I'm not saying go through this and read every page front and back, but just the relevant parts. You'll be able to tell from the table of contents or the chapters in the code what you're going to be looking for as far as what's relevant to your case. So you're going to want to do all of those things: evidence, rules of procedure, local court rules, and then any other authority in your state that's relevant to your case. But those are going to be the main ones. And of course, the family code for your state as well. And that's if you're in a non-federal case. Most of the time, I mean, it's very rare that a family law case goes to federal court. But if you are in a federal situation, then you would want to change all of this to the federal rules of procedure and federal rules of evidence, which is the same no matter what state that you're in, because it's federal. But if you're in a state court, you're going to want to go off of the state rules that your state has, which it will vary based on the state. So that's very important. So you're going to want to do that. And that can be in your own time. If you got something coming down the pipe and you know about it, this is something you can do to take advantage. And in the meantime, as the case unfolds, you want to make sure that you apply the facts of your case to the law that you learn about. Because if you're ever wronged, and this is important, this is videos more for those of you that have been wronged and want to represent yourself to right the situation. This is what you would need to do: is just as the situation unfolds, document everything that you possibly can. Start to apply the law that you learned to the facts of the case. And then if you're ever wronged or screwed over or something happens that shouldn't have happened, not only could you potentially bring it up like right when it does happen instead of having to try to do it after the fact, which is what I had to do, but it could show that you're not messing around and you know your rights, because that's what this is all about: is knowing your rights, knowing when you're being wronged and when stuff's not going the right way, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the rules, just like SEC filings and everything else. It's all about the rules, and you have to follow them. If you're a judge, lawyer, whatever, they all have to abide by these rules. And if they don't, that's when you can get some extraordinary relief, mandamus, writ of certiorari, or however the fuck you say it. God, how do you pronounce that? It's a weird one. There's crazy writs, and it's all legalese and jargon, things like that. But it's not too complicated. But that's number 3: apply the law to the facts of your case. And then number 4, obviously, it's 2024. One huge essential benefit of this is that you don't have to go down to the courthouse with a stack of papers to file your stuff. You can do it all through like Microsoft Word, PDF. You can just do it all from your computer and then e-file it, granted that you've set up an account and you know how to properly research case law. If you're getting into more advanced filings, like, again, mandamus and the writs of cert and things of that nature. But I'm not going to get into details on motions and things like that. This is just general concepts to represent yourself and how you should approach it from the gate. So that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to show you what it's like for Texas. So in Texas, I'm pretty sure you can just do Texas Laws PDF in your Google search bar. Of course, I'm not going to have internet right now, because why would I? I'm trying to record something. But Texas Laws PDF, let's do Texas rather. And you have Texas Constitution and statutes. So it's pretty easy for Texas. I'm not sure if every state has this, but you have a lot of them right here. And what you can do is you just pick the one you need. And in this example, let's go with the family code. So family code, we'll just download the full PDF and we'll have it at our disposal to use whenever we want. And this is a pretty lengthy law book here. It's 1,627 pages long. So it's pretty lengthy. But what's good about it is you don't need to use the whole thing. That's where the table of contents over here comes in handy, or the bookmarks, because you can clearly see the different titles. There's five, or I'm sorry, six. You have the marriage relationship, collaborative family law, child in relation to the family. You can kind of tell what applies to your case just by looking at the titles of the law. But what is important is what the law actually says. So just for one example, and I know this applies to a lot of people right now, if you're in a situation where you're getting divorced and you're the man, unfortunately, because most of the time this happens, it's against the man in the relationship. And if you have allegations of family violence in your divorce case and you haven't had a hearing yet, and and it's horrible, but this happens more times than not, then this would definitely be something that I would look into. Because if we do something like this, and if we say, let's just do protective order, and most of the time, like false allegations of domestic violence or family violence or things like that are going to come in the form of a protective order or an emergency ex parte order, where you don't even get to be at the court, and the spouse gets to go up there, and if they can convince the judge to issue this emergency ex parte protective order, you will get no notice and hearing, and you'll just get immediately served by the constable. And depending on what the nature of the case is, you could be ejected from your house. You could be forced to not be around your kids anymore for a short amount of time. It's temporary, but still, it's a big thing that could happen. And you want to make sure that you're prepared if something like this were to be attempted on your case. So if we just look and use Control F, it's a saving grace, protective order. There is specific things that must be done regarding everything when it comes to law, for the most part. And if we look at protective order, there's 299 instances of it in the family code. So obviously it's talked about quite a bit. You get information regarding it, related orders to it, things like that. So you can go through here and learn what you need to learn based on your case details just by searching for it in the code that you're trying to learn at the time. And obviously you wouldn't want to get into the rules of evidence or anything like that until you have a trial date set. I wouldn't even waste my time getting into that, because up until then, I would just collect as many documents as you can, document everything, and then if it gets to the point where you're going to trial, then start learning about evidence to get prepared for it. But I would spend the majority of the time at first learning the code itself, the family code, because it is pretty extensive. And then the rules of procedure and local court rules are essential. So let's just do this real quick. I'm doing filing suit, which is a subchapter in this book here. It's in Title 1. And filing suit is important because this is what governs how the petitions and all that must be filed, and the ramifications of if they're filed a certain way. So in Texas, and this varies by state, so if you're in a different state, I would check with your local or your state rules to make sure this still applies. But if you look at this, it will have a mention of a protective order. Contents of petition right here. I think it's 6405 or 6.405B is what we're looking for. So if we go look at 6.405, it says protective order and related orders. And this is important because if you're in the situation, it says the petition in a suit for dissolution of marriage must state, and that is commanding language right there, must state whether in regard to a party to the suit or a child of a party to the suit, there is in effect a protective order under Title 4, a protective order under Subchapter A, Chapter 7B of the Code of Criminal Procedure, or an order for emergency protection under Article 17.292 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. And then number 2, an application for an order described by subdivision number 1 is pending. Now, this is the important one, is B here. So 6.405B is what you want to look at if you're a person that's been accused of family violence, when you know there's no evidence of it, there's never been any family violence, but your spouse is claiming that there is. This is what you do. So let's just do this real quick. Divorce petition form, Texas PDF. So this is the divorce petition right here that most people would use based on the law help websites. You can get a lot of written forms. You just fill it out, scan it, sign it, which really you don't even have to print it out to sign it anymore. You just use slash lowercase s / and then just type your name. That's a signature now for e-filing stuff. This actually isn't the one. I'm going to get the one that I used. I think this is it right here. We need the one for Tarrant County, though, here. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, how we can relate these forms to the rules. So if you basically sit there with the code open and you go through the forms that you're served or whatever, and you just kind of, fact check and see, okay, did they file this right? Because you can find mistakes in there right off the gate, and, it could help you a lot. Let's see, divorce kits with children. This is going to be it right here. You go to the forms. Packet divorce set B. That's agreed, though. We don't want agreed. We do not want agreed. We don't want a default, though. I want the actual form just so I can show you. I thought it was right here, but maybe not. Let's check again. Divorce kits, English and Spanish. Maybe it was a different site I got it from. Okay, this is the form for pro se. They have a lot of help stuff that you can use for pro se litigants. Where's the divorce original? Let's go ahead and just use this one. It's going to have the same information that we're looking for. So essentially what that rule we were saying just said, let's look for the protective order statement. Let's just do the Control F again. Okay, right here, number 5, protective order statement. Now, if we go back to the family code, 6405 says protective order and related order. So this is the exact relevance that we're looking for. It's a protective order statement. So if the waiting period, so there's a 60-day minimum waiting period in Texas for divorce. And, if this is waived, if this 60-day period is waived because of allegations of family violence, which their spouse claims there's an active order of protection out against you at the time of the filing, or that an order of family violence or an order stating that family violence had occurred previously in your marriage, if that is checked, pay close attention. Because instead of freaking out about it and saying, oh, that's a lie, then they get emotional, you can simply refute this and, attack this if you know that it's false. Now, if it is true, I mean, obviously don't lie and fight it. But if it's not true and you know it's a lie, this is what you can do. Because if it says, this one right here, if the C is checked, it says, I do have a protective order against my spouse. I got the protective order in whatever county, blah, blah, blah. If this is checked against you, then if you look at this code here, it says in 6405B that the petitioner shall attach to the petition a copy of each order described by subsection A1, in which a party to the suit or the child of a party to the suit was the applicant or victim of the conduct alleged in the application or order, and the other party was the respondent or defendant of an action regarding the conduct alleged in the application or order without regard to the date of the order. So it's basically saying if either you or the person filing has ever had an active order of protection out against the other person, then you're going to want to essentially check this box. And if you do check this box, if a copy of the order you're claiming exists against either you or your spouse is not available at the time of filing, the petition must state that a copy of the order will be filed with the court before any hearing. So that being said, there can be no hearing. If they're claiming violence against you and they check that waiver of 60 days, there can be no hearing if the order that they're claiming exists against you isn't attached to the petition or stating that it will be filed with the court. Because it says right here, you can't have a hearing about, false allegations of violence, whatever they're going to throw at you, without this petition that she's claiming to exist or he's claiming to exist or whoever it may be, it has to be attached to the petition. Had I known this fact beginning of all mine, I mean, this would have saved me a lot of headache, but just wanted to point that out for anybody out there that may want to go ahead and use it. And then, that's basically it. You just get the facts as they come out through your case, because you're not going to be able to learn much through other people because your case is going to be so unique. You can learn general stuff, but as far as the rules themselves, you just got to learn them and apply them to your case and separate the emotions from the facts, and just go about it in a level-headed way. I know it's not easy. It's easier said than done, but it's not impossible. And that, in my opinion, is the most effective way to represent yourself in court. And then, of course, if you get further into it and you have to go to the appellate court and things like that, where you're going to need to cite case law and authority as far as other cases that have been decided, like by the Supreme Court of your state or whatever, or the United States Supreme Court. That's where fast case comes into play. You just, essentially you can filter it by jurisdiction, by whatever state you're in, and then look up cases that have made similar decisions to the one that you're asking for in your case. But that's basically what I have for you. I'm going to get back into the market stuff here soon. I've just been real busy with this, and I've learned a lot. I try to take every experience as a learning opportunity. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, this helps somebody. But that's the way I did it.